So what I'm going to focus on today is getting the new spindles and lower ball joints on, and removing the old shift linkage. You can kind of see in there the old shift linkage kind of sticks out. That's about where the new mount needs to be, so before I can do any more fabrication, that needs to get out of there. So I'll be crawling around up under the car for a little bit. But for now, I'm just going to get the car up on jack stands, get the wheels off, and get those hubs off. While I have the car apart, I'm going to go ahead and put these K injection camber caster plates on. Yeah, so I need to replace tie rod ends too, because I destroyed this one. This one's just completely smashed. I got really pissed off trying to get it apart and just kind of wrecked it. I said that I would replace it at a later date and never did. So now would be the time to do it. Just not right now. Yeah, so I'll definitely, before I do the final assembly of everything, I'll be replacing this this ball joint. Or this tie rod end, I should say. I have to remove the brake caliper, and that's a couple of 13s. Two main bolts are 14s. Then I needed to find a place to put this where it's not going to fall. Put that over there is a little table. Take the caliper off. Get the rest are there. I want to remove this guy, which is, I think I still have loose. The lower ball joint. That's going. Give her a couple of taps. Come right out like so. Take this off so you don't break your toe. These are brand new bearings in here, by the way. Okay. These are 15s, I believe. Just come right off like so. Alright, and you got a remove the lower ball joint, you got a bolt here, and you got the bolt here. I need to replace these anyways. There you go, lower ball joints off. So you can see, it's just barely, I mean, this is so subtle. God, that almost doesn't even seem worth it. But anyways, you can see the new ball joints is slightly longer. And that little bit is going to give you what you need in order to allow the axles to fit correctly. So these RX-7, these are 88 RX-7 lower ball joints. The reason why you have to change the entire spindle is because this this post is slightly larger than the Escorts. or than the early model Escort, so you have to switch to a late model Escort spindle where the opening's the right size. These usually come in aluminum. The OE RX-7 ones are aluminum, so they're slightly lighter weight. I didn't want to spend all the money on the aluminum ones, so I got the cheapies. They're steel, but they should work. So, come with new hardware. It's about the storm. Go ahead and clean this up a little bit since it's a little greasy. It's a lot of greasy. You can call it grease and grime, but I call it corrosion prevention. Alright, so these are going to go on the underside. I guess I can do one in the bottom, like they did, like the originals. I'll have to figure out something for this guy. Basically these, they have a shaft on and they are too tall, so they don't quite work the way that they should. Basically the nut is bottoming out on this shaft here before it actually tightens around the control arm. So I'm gonna have to go get some shorter bolts, but for now I think the one will have to hold it for right now. Go ahead and pull the coilover off and get those new plates on. Spindles on. Nothing can ever go easy. Let's try this again. One down, one more to go. So I'm going to go ahead and knock the other side out, and then I can get the axles in. Actually, before I get the axles in, I want to get the shift linkage out. So let me knock the other side out, then I'll start on the shift linkage. Hoping what I can do is just drop the shift linkage, or drop the entire assembly out the bottom in one piece. Gonna have to move the exhaust, obviously. I don't think I have a heat shield down there. Normally you'd have to remove the heat shield. Unlucky bastard. That's not that size. So yeah, they're 13s. Alright, so we can see the shift linkage kind of says resting on top of the exhaust. I should be able just to drop these hangers and you know, it should just fall out. Okay, so I got the hubs in, or the new hubs, with the new lower ball joints. I'm still waiting on my tie rod ends to come in, so for right now these are just temporarily installed to keep the wheel straight. I went ahead, I shoved the axles in. Well, I got one axle in. I'm going to shove the other axle in the other side. I'm going to put the wheels back on, lower the car down, and put the engine back in. And I can start getting things centered up. I also got shift linkage out, so that's out of there. But yeah, so I'm gonna get that other axle in, get the wheels back on, get the car back on the ground, and all that fun stuff. But I'm not gonna film any of it because, you know, it's all. But yeah, I'm not gonna film any of the frivolous kind of stuff because, you know, it's all just fluff. So alrighty. Alright, so here's what I got going on here. I got the axles and the hubs, and, you know, like I said, these are half axles. You know, they bolt on to the stubs that are on the inside the transmission, so that's kind of cool. So I got some wood laid down here because when I lay this down, whenever I make the mounts, I don't want the transmission to actually be resting on the subframe. So I just got some thin woods, maybe about 1/2 inch in total, that, you know, the trans will rest on. And then I'll probably put my trans lift under the engine block, and then that'll give me something secure to sit that on, and then I can level that and adjust it to the position that I think it needs to be in. I guess before I do that, I'm gonna do some massaging on this side. I kind of already did a little bit, but I'm just gonna take a sledge and hammer that in a little bit. Yeah, so a lot of people say this needs to be done. Not really sure, but anyways, I'm just gonna heat this up a little bit, make it a little more pliable. I'm not concerned about the paint, because I'm going to repaint this later. Just gonna get it nice and warm and not cook that brake line. It smells nice and warm. Turns out that I just can't slide the axles into place onto their post because clearance is too tight. So I had to jack it up and loosen up some of the suspension. I also decided that zip tying the axles into place is a lot easier than trying to bolt them into place. Alright, so didn't film a lot of me dicking around with this. This actually took a lot of finagling to get this remotely close. So right now the axles are just zip tied into place. I'm trying to get them to be as level and as straight as humanly possible. Just that will help prevent wheel hop if the axles are perfectly level. Obviously once the body is actually supporting the engine, it's going to sink a little bit, and that's going to change the angle of the axles, but I can adjust that. Yeah, so this mount should be fairly simple. The front mount should be fairly simple. This is where the original mount mounts to, and this is the plate where I'm going to weld that transmission mount to, so that actually lines up perfectly. The side mount's going to be kind of interesting because the bolts are way back there, and then the mounting tab for the transmission's way up there, so have to figure something out to do that. But yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. But I'm going to call it a night for tonight. I'm going to come up with a method to actually get this perfectly straight. I mean, it's pretty straight now, but yeah, it's a tight fit. It's a real tight fit, especially over here. Had to hammer this side in quite a bit, heated it and hammered it, so it's not too horribly deformed. Doesn't look like there's a lot of space between there, but you know, there's about a RCH worth of space in there, so maybe a quarter RCH. Not a whole lot of space between the diff and the steering rack, but that's no big deal as long as it doesn't move. But yeah, this axle is just about straight. I need to scoot the transmission back just a little bit more, but yeah, I just gotta work on getting it level, get it straight, and then I can start fabbing up these mounts. And once that's done, that should be the hard part. Famous last words. So next up on the project is I've got to redo the wiring harness. I went ahead, I chopped the wiring harness in half. Only the essentials are connected to the engine, and only the essentials will be going back into the engine bay. I've got some nice mil-spec style connectors. So next time I need to pull the engine, it's just a quarter twist, throw the harness over the engine, and pull everything out. I don't have to worry about disconnecting everything. Same thing for the harness inside. It's somewhere in there. Started messing around with getting the shifter mounted. We have to trim a whole lot of material off of that in order to fit that up under the center console. But yeah, it's coming along. She'll be back up on the road in no time. I don't know why I keep jinxing myself. But yeah, like I said, it's enough for tonight. So, till next time.